Beth, how you doing?
What's up? I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
I am too, man. But okay, before we get started, I gotta understand when you hear confidence, how do you define confidence? Because we hear a lot of coaches talk about confidence, a lot of trainers talk about confidence, but how would you define confidence? Give us your breakdown, your dictionary definition of confidence.
So I have a lot of thoughts on confidence, but I think like the simplest, like one sentence answer is like your belief that you can figure it out. I think that's the truest form of confidence. Belief that you can figure it out.
I
I can
love
break that
that
down, but
definition.
that's the easy way.
Let's go. Hey, we're here. Let's go. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Break it down for me.
Um, so the best way I ever heard about confidence is from a guy. His name is Brendan Burchard. He's like a motivational speaker, high performance habits speaker, and he broke it down into like three categories, and he called it congruency, competence, and connection. And so competence being like skill acquisition. Can I actually do the thing they're asking me to do? Right? Do I have the skills and tools readily available to complete the task or do the skill or perform in the game? That'd be competence. And then congruency would be kind of like confidence, where we're talking about like, am I doing the things I say I'm going to do? If I say I'm going to wake up at 6, I'm up at 6. I'm like putting deposits in for the person I want to be, and I see myself doing the things I say I want to be, and I want to do. And so I'm building up confidence in myself, trusting myself that I'm on the path that I say I want to be on. And then connection or community would be like confidence in a social setting. Can you put me in a room and do I feel comfortable in this setting? Do I feel like my voice is heard? Do I feel like I can ask questions? And those three things kind of like build up like a broad base of confidence. But then the truest form is not like sometimes you talk to a kid and be like, man, I feel most confident when I'm doing something I've done 100 times. And that's cool, but there's going to be so many situations that you've never done it before, right? You go from high school to college. I've never done this before. So it's not the same. So the truest form is like, I have this confidence and belief in myself that I'll figure it out. You gave me a challenge. I couldn't do it today, but I'm not defeated. I'm going to find a way to get better and to do it. So that's why I think like the truest and like most grounded form is not in what we can do today, but in saying that I will figure out how to do this because of all the things I've been able to figure out how to do before.
I love that so much because as I've been thinking through and trying to break down confidence, when I first started thinking about it, of course, I'm going through a basketball lens. And
Mm-hmm.
how do you get more confident in basketball is by ripping it out. Like Kobe says, I've trained and shot 1,000 times. So when game time hit, it's just 1,001. But then I started zooming out and thinking about it in terms of being more practical to life and just bigger picture. And you can't always put in reps in life. You can't always be confident to perform. And I'm thinking about different situations, scenarios. So okay, that definition doesn't fit there. So how could I recalibrate what confidence means?
Mm-hmm.
And one part I thought about was being just self-aware and knowing who you are and where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go back to like a random karaoke. That's my analogy. I'm not analogy, but like the image I have when I think about being confident. The average person's like, no, I'm good. I'm not trying to go up there and do that. But the confident person's like, I know I can't sing, so I'm just gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
So what would give them the confidence to do that? Because they're aware of themselves and they know I don't find value in the outcome of this. And so for me, I'm like, okay, so how does that translate to basketball and still to be life? So it's go to what you said. It's just being able to be confident in your ability to do this thing. You trust yourself to go out and perform and do this thing. So it's not about putting reps in, which doesn't play a role into it. But overall, it's you being able to trust yourself and your ability to figure it out and get this outcome as best as you can. So I love everything you just said. It makes me feel like I know a little bit when I think about confidence.
For sure. And I think it's like, it's like you don't always get it right the first time. Like, this is my first year. I coached college basketball before I got into training. But, as a really young assistant, like, you don't make a ton of decisions in game. You're like talking to the players, little suggestions. But I'm coaching with a good friend of mine at one of the local high schools in town. And there's so many times where it's like, this is our first year doing this together, and we have lots of knowledge and lots of capabilities, but like we'll come out of a timeout and the opposing coach will go from man to man to one possession of 1-3-1 zone. And I'm like, they were smarter than us. Like, I'm like, dang it. Like, they got it. Like, so there's all these little moments where it's like, oh, we got to get better at that. But I think, like you said, like, you're not, when your worth isn't tied to it, your value isn't tied to it, like your identity isn't tied to it, then you have like the flexibility to be like, okay, I got to get better at this, but that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. There's just these things I have to get better at.
Yeah, I think trying to be more objective about it is, I think that's one of the biggest struggles with hoopers and their confidence, because you live and die by the outcome of what happens. Because if I'm a basketball player, I do this basketball thing and I do it very well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to happen like that. And you're going to have games where you lose. You're going to have games where if you're a shooter, you shoot 3 for 15 and it's going to suck. But you have to go through that, because you're going to have the next game where you go 10 for 10 and you can't miss. But you don't get through that 10 for 10 spot without going through the 3 for 15. But how do you get through there? It's about
Mm-hmm.
being confident in spite of this current situation. So it's been a journey of trying to like figure out confidence and trying to install it into players when it comes to that. But how do you kind of get that definition and that thought of being confident to translate to your players?
Well, I think it's like, for one, it's like, it's just easier said than done, because there's
Yeah.
so many factors that impact how they think about themselves in the game. So, like in skill development and training, like the philosophy at Moonshot is like, we're trying to inspire people that they're worthy and capable of extraordinary things. And how do we do that? Is we try to put challenges that are just beyond what they think they can do. And if we show them constantly doing things they didn't think they could, then they're starting to believe that I can, I didn't think I could do this, and now I'm doing it with ease. Well, maybe I can do something in this other realm. Or, I've seen myself pour so much hard work into something that I know I can work really hard to achieve this next thing. And so I think sometimes just presenting like the right level of challenge and showing them like, you have all of this inside of you. Like, this, you've just asked us to help draw it out. Like, we're not special magicians. Like, you're showing up and doing the work every day. We're just finding the right dose of like, that's a little too hard, but you can do it. And then adjusting when it's like, that's way too hard, we got to bring it down. That would crush them today. And finding the balance of that. But so much of their confidence also comes from like what they call is like psychological safety. Like, how do I feel in the group? Right? Can I make mistakes? Do I feel safe to fail? Do I feel like I could say what I'm thinking and it's going to be judged? Or is it going to be just heard and well received? And all of that impacts whether you feel like you can go into a space and take up a lot of space and be yourself, or whether or not you feel like you need to be in a small box and fit this mold and fit those things. So we've had a lot of kids where in training, they look one way because this is the environment I try hard to create. And then they go back to their team. It's a different environment. It's a different setting. And they feel like they got to be back into this box that feels small and safe and protected. And so it's easier said than done of like, how do you get this in them deep enough that it goes with them everywhere that they go?
Yeah, I think that's probably our biggest challenge as trainers, is because like the first hurdle you have to overcome, like you said, is getting that environment and getting that player to be adapted to that environment. And now it's like, okay, you're comfortable here, you're confident here. How do we get that to translate over into the game, or get that to translate over into life? And that's I think that's where the real separation is between great trainers. Like, it's cool to do all this skill work and you can dribble the ball and do all these shots. But how do you get that to translate to the game and get the mentality to translate to the game? I think that's the $1,000,000 question that we have to answer all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. What have you come up with so far? What's your answer?
It's kind of like what you were saying, is planting that small seed of getting them to realize that failure or things not going your way in games is going to be okay, and helping them mentally problem solve out of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I train them, I don't always give them the answer. I give them answers and you figure out which one is best for you. So if you're missing your shot, are you missing short? Are you missing long? Are you missing left? Or are you missing right? Okay, so what does that mean? More than likely you pushing this way, shooting that way, whatever. And so by the time we get a couple reps in a couple sessions and they know the shot a little bit better. So it's like, okay, so for you specifically, when you're missing short, you don't have enough legs or you're not pushing hard enough. So now it's like, hey, I'm missing short. I can figure this out now. So then it's just really giving them the thought process to think through so they can figure stuff out. So creating in them being problem solvers and helping them figure out stuff without me being there because the coach isn't going to hold their hand. I'm not going to hold their hand. Parents can't do it. So kind of creating that environment for them to figure it out for themselves and then also feel comfortable getting it wrong, but still knowing I can figure it out still. So I know, okay, I checked off answer number A, that didn't work. Let's try number B. Okay, let's try C. Let's try D. So just getting them more comfortable with that and getting them to think that stuff through to where they can figure it out themselves is where I'm at right now with it. So it's kind of working some, but not overall. But I think I'm on the right track.
Yeah, I hear that. Some of it just takes time too. Just takes time.
Yeah. What about you? What have you kind of figured out?
One is like I think the like in Oregon when you watch their games, you get to see like okay, what are they actually doing day to day, right? Like
Yeah.
in our youth basketball here is not like robust or the best. And so you have a lot of teams who play zone, a lot of teams who, will kind of throw junk defenses at you, even at the high school level. And so, you have to take what you know and just break it down for what they actually need, right? Because if you can make it make sense to them for what they're experiencing day to day, is like, okay, this is going to help you more because it's familiar, it's in context, right? Sometimes, I work with one kid and like she's phenomenal playing college basketball next year, and every team plays them zone. And so I'm like, okay, do we need to work on any pick and roll stuff? She's like, I'm not in them at all. Right. And in college, I'll need to know all these things. We'll have to learn really fast. But right now, it's like the majority of my shots are attacking closeouts, like driving, kick, shooting, offensive rebounds and transition. It's like, cool, let's settle into like what you're seeing a lot of. And the same with our group development stuff is like, what do you see the most? What do we think could be most transferable on any team you're on? So attacking closeouts, reading defensive rotation, like off ball spacing, towards like I'm not trying to like put in some sort of offensive system. I'm just trying to help you make better decisions in the situations that you're in. And then, if you are the player in your team who gets to shoot 15, 20 times, or you're a player in your team who really needs to be able to move defense and maybe get off ball cuts. It's like there's no right or wrong. You just have to figure out how to be great at the situation that you're in. And that's the only way typically that our situation expands, our role expands, is just be great at what they're asking you to do. And then as they're asking you to do more, well, now that can come out of you as well.
That's exactly what I was telling a player one time where just she's in college and so she's kind of getting, handicapped to an extent of just playing this role. And she was getting a little frustrated because she felt like she could do more. And I'm like, all right, I feel you. We both know you can do more, but you have to gain their trust first. So, okay, how you do that? It's going back to being confident, right? They have to be confident and you be able to do this. So if I'm asking you to do one thing and you're not doing that one thing right, why would I trust you to do more that you want to do? It's not going to work that way. So it's like, okay, cool. What are they asking you to do? How can we maximize this role to where you can do more of what you want to do? And it's just drilling that in to where she felt more confident and more comfortable doing what they asked to do. So now when she shoots a crazy shot, it's not going to be as detrimental. She takes a poor turnover, it's not going to be as bad now. Versus before, you're not even shooting the ball right. You're not even playing defense. So why would we give you more to do? So it
Mm-hmm.
just goes back to like you were saying, like maximize the role of the game plan that the coaches have them in. So now they can do more and expand and you know go up and out in their game. So
Mm-hmm.
that's no go ahead.
I also think I think it's like coaching and training and then like doing both at the same time is like you kind of get to wear both hats where it's like, man, sometimes like it's just not about you. Like, it's not about your shots. Like, that sometimes, coach, how can I play more? Why can't I shoot more? It's like, dude, those are the most selfish questions you could ask us, right? Like, if you're looking at what does the team need? Well, we suck at defensive rebounding. We're not good at making the extra pass. And like, we can't keep a team's best player in front. And so you come in and being like, well, I just want to shoot 10 more times a game, or I feel like I need to be more creative, is like, we're not even looking at the same thing right now. So sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, as kids are getting, and, obviously like the skill of the game is probably higher than it's ever been. Like, but the like team chemistry of the game is not as high. The ability to play with each other for a common goal seems to be getting lower and lower. And so it's like balancing this. Like I always say in training and player development, it's like we're helping you be great at the role you're in while starting to prepare you for the places you will go. Right. So it's like, but we have to do our first job of like, all they're asking you to do is, can you keep this player in front? Can you rebound the ball and can you outlet it? And it's like, you want to do more, but our team is doing great right now. Your team is playing great. You're trying to win state championships, conference championships. You're trying to win the game in front of you. And you're worried about all these things that are only going to cloud your mind and impact your ability to actually help the team, which is going to further your cause of, well, now you're not getting the minutes you want, the shots you want, or the other things, because our mind is fixed on the wrong stuff.
And that's a very important point. So as a trainer, let's say you have a player who the coach needs 3-point shooting, and the player is not a 3-point shooter, not a great 3-point shooter. How would you kind of have that conversation with them to say, hey, you want to play more, and a coach needs this skill, but they're not confident in this skill, they don't have this skill. How would you kind of train that with them?
Well, one is like, you got to help them with their like actual shooting mechanics, confidence, game reps. But I think also is like, okay, if a coach wants 3-point shooting and you're not a 3-point shooter, you probably don't want to run in and just shoot the first open three, right? Could you catch it, drive it, kick to the next person? Now someone with more ability today is taking that shot, right? And you created the shot for your teammate, but you didn't have to take a shot you weren't comfortable with, right? Like that's a winning play. It's, you're still getting exactly what the coach asked for, and you didn't put yourself in a situation that you're not ready for yet or confident in yet. And so I think it's like, it's not like you're putting them in a box, but it's like, how can you be your most successful right now while we're building the skills for you to be able to do more over time? And just being like realistic. I don't think it's our job to like predict potential, but it's our job to like speak truth into certain moments of like, that is not a good shot for you right now. Or, you have to move the ball. You have to give the one more there, and just helping them through like, it's not always fun, but someone has to be like, how do you help your team right now in this situation? Because that's what it's about, I think. And the better your team is, the more looks you'll get, and it flows from there.
So how would you help a player who they've kind of lost their confidence because they're not playing as much, and they're trying to figure out that role on the team. They're trying to figure out how they can contribute to what the coach wants, but their confidence has been shot because they're not playing now.
Mm-hmm. I think, I mean, we could probably go all the way back to the beginning. Well, how do we get confidence, right? So we walk ourselves all the way back to the beginning. Are you getting like your shots up? Are you doing daily vitamins? Are you getting extra training? Are you trying your best in practice? Like if you say you're going to get, 150 shots up every day after practice, are you doing it? Right? Like, can we detach some of our own confidence from what our coach thinks about us, which is hard, especially for kids, right? But I think going back to, okay, how do we get confidence? Let's get in the gym. Sometimes kids need to get away from the thing they're bad at. Like I coached a kid when I was at Portland State. It's like when she was really in her head, we'd go and we'd play one-on-one. Is it helpful? Maybe yes, maybe no, but it just gives her a competitive outlet to take her mind off the team. Now she comes back to the team resettled, ready to like attack the next challenge. So it's like knowing the kids you're talking to and knowing like when space is going to be the best thing for you to just like go rest, like take your Sunday off day and chill, like do something completely non-basketball related, and then Monday let's get back in the gym. And knowing when it's like, okay, let's get in and work on this specifically today so that you can apply it immediately, tonight or tomorrow.
So from your experience, how have you kind of found that push and pull work? Like, how do you know when the player needs to get more reps in and train to gain the confidence, and when they need to sit back and kind of disconnect from it?
I think it's one is like knowing the kids, and in training is like you're pretty familiar, or in coaching like you're very familiar with what they're doing day to day, and so okay, we're training 2, 3, 4 days a week, and you're practicing 6 days a week. It's like you need to rest. Like that's gonna help you sleep in, eat well, do nothing, and then when you have a kid who's not doing a lot of extra, was like you know we could get in the gym and let's just work on these things. So I think the more familiarity you have with like the people that you're working with, the more it's going to help you kind of like in their own mental. Like if they're like, I need to get it, I need to get it, I need to get it, it's like, okay, but breathe for a second. Like you're okay. And when it's kind of just like this, I've sort of come to like this place where maybe I'm not going to try as hard because I'm not getting what I want. Well, then that's like that kick in the butt where it's like, okay, no, keep putting effort into this, keep working towards this. You're going to get your opportunity in your moment, and you got to keep preparing for it. And it's just you learning the kid helps you find when to do each of those different things with them.
Yeah, it's always it's an interesting juggling trying to do that sometimes, because some kids will, like, they don't have the self awareness to really know hard work. Really, I'm not trying to say they're lazy, but they just don't understand hard work, so they think that, oh, I'm working hard, I'm really training, and then you kind of take it for face value at first. Like, okay, they're training, working hard, practicing, so on and so forth. But then, like, as a coach, like, not every player is going to get the same amount of reps in a practice. And then there are times where they think they're doing something outside of practice, and you think, okay, you're training outside of practice. That's great. It's like you're not really training that hard. And so they think they're working to gain their confidence, and they're growing and they're developing. But then you take a peel, like a layer back, and you see, oh, you're not really working to develop your confidence. You're just getting reps and kind of say you got reps in, or you're not training efficient enough or well enough to really actually gain your confidence. So how did you kind of work around that, either as a trainer or as a coach, of just working around the facade they have of
Mm-hmm.
their training to gain their confidence?
I would just like, you just got to ask them questions. A lot of times, like the easiest person to lie to is yourself, is like, so when you kind of I think that oftentimes like people know more than we give them credit for. We just have to kind of dig past some of the layers that they're putting up. Right. And so just asking them like about, like what they're doing or how they're feeling, or like how they're feeling is affecting what they're doing, and just kind of letting them like walk themselves to some real answers of like what were you doing when you felt most confident? Like walk me through those days. It'd be like, okay, what are you doing those things right now? And sometimes it'll be like, no, or and I think it's kind of the same, it's along the same lines, but it's like getting kids to not over try is important. Like there's this book, it's called The Inner Game of Tennis, but he talks about kind of like when our mind is like, when it's over controlling what we're doing, then he's like, our body gets tighter. Now you say like, hey, don't miss right. And then you miss like 2 feet right, air ball behind the backboard. And it's like, well, I just said don't miss right. And then I like double down on trying hard. And then what happens is like our body gets physically tight. My shoulder is tighter, my elbow is tighter, I'm gripping the ball more. And now all of our mechanics have changed, right? So it's getting them to be like, hey, you've shot like 10, you've shot 1,000 times in the last 2 weeks. Like your body knows how to make adjustments. Like learning how to calm our mind down so that our body can adjust is the key component too, which is not answering your question you asked before about just asking them questions about like, hey, like, let them walk themselves to, you know what, I do need to shoot more. You know what, I do need a day off. You know what, I am so frustrated and it's impacting my playing. I do so bad want to beat this team and I'm stressed out about it. They know themselves. You just got to ask them questions to let themselves talk about it in a place where they feel comfortable to receive information back. I think that's a key.
You ever stepped on the court and it's almost like you forget how to hoop? Like you were just killing it to practice before, but then the game time hits and warms you a little less confident, little not feeling as much. But then the game hits. It's almost like somebody took your controller and they unplugged it and it just turned it off. It's not working anymore. So now game time coming, you start pump faking on wide open shots, and on the fast break you hesitated. And by the end of the game, the coach is like, "Who is this kid? Why are they on my team? How did they get on my team? I don't recognize this player anymore." It's almost like that Space Jam scene when the NBA players got their talent stolen by the aliens, and they start looking around like, "Where am I? What is going on with me?"
Come on, we're okay. We're okay. You're all right. Come on, let's go.
Come on, Patrick, it's showtime.
And I get it. I feel you. Confidence is a really tricky thing. It's weird. But I got some good news for you right here. You don't have to hope to feel confident every game because I made something special just for you. I have a pregame and a postgame checklist for your confidence. All right. It's the things you can do before you step on the court to make sure that you feel confident and to bounce back after the game to make sure that you're always improving and building your game. So hit the link below and it'll be sent straight to you guys. And it's going to help you out so you don't feel like that 2K player that's just glitching in the middle of the game anymore.
And his name is John C.
All right, so it's going to have you get back to feeling like yourself and playing like you never have before. So go ahead and hit the description below and lock in with us and get your confidence rebuilt.
I want to pivot a little bit. For me, I think it's so interesting being around shooters and their confidence because skill wise and ability wise, they put in the like, I think shooters put in the most work into their craft than any other skill possible. Like a ball handler, you can be a great ball handler, but at some point you don't have to keep developing your handles. At some point, it's like you're good enough almost. But shooting is the skill that you have to constantly kind of groove and work on. And so to put in that level of work ethic, and then for them to have such wavering confidence, I'm not gonna claim to be a great shooter. I'm cool. I can get the ball from my hands to the goal, and it can do some damage. But I'm not gonna call myself a great shooter. And for their confidence to be so wavering sometimes, it just I don't know what to say about them. But what do you have to say? Because it's just I don't know. It's a mystery.
Shooters, I don't know if it's just shooters, but sometimes you'll be like, hey man, what, like, kids are funny. You can ask them things and they'll tell you their truth, right? And then you're like, okay, like, how do you know when you're gonna have a good day or not? And they'll be like, if I make the first shot of the day. That's their whole day. If I miss the first shot, oh, I'm off today. If I make the first shot, it's gonna be a good day. And so it's like kind of like telling that back to them, like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, you're going to shoot, if you're in a training session or you're just getting shots up, you're going to shoot 200 more times. Or, in the warm-ups before the game, you're going to shoot 25 shots, right? Or like, so how are you going to have your whole day dependent on if it goes in or if it goes out on the first one? Same with like, I tell kids a lot, I'm like, you're going to have to learn how to survive a miss. Right? Like, you're not going to make your first shot. You're going to get, a contested look to start the game and it doesn't go in, right? You have to learn to like steady yourself to keep playing, right? Like, how quickly can we help kids get to the next thing? I missed a shot. I need to play defense, right? I, turned down a good look. That's as bad as a miss half the time, right? So it's like helping them work through, okay, what's the next thing you need to be doing? And if we can try our best to stay in this present moment, we don't have time to be thinking about if I missed it or I made it or whatever. But I think shooter is more like you said, like calling them a shooter is almost like an identity, right? That's a shooter. They're supposed to make shots. And it's like, okay, can you shoot well, but you don't have to like over identify with the only way I impact the game is with shooting. Right? And it just frees them up to, like, you can have a bad shooting night and still do so many things that helps your team, that still makes you an impact performer, that is, you know, not tied to the ability for you to make this shot or miss this shot. And then walking them back to, like, can you actually control if the ball goes in or not? It's like I might have a lot of influence over it, but I can't control it. Sometimes it feels great and you just miss, right? And so we walk back to, like, okay, so are you getting the reps up? Does it feel good when you shoot? Are you in rhythm, on balance? Those have to be, like, almost as good as makes. And in your mind, just be like, okay, the next one is coming. Like, that feels great. The next one is coming. Just helping them detach from, like, what do I have control over and what do I not? And if all my confidence is based on things I don't have control over, then I'm constantly going to be on a roller coaster of my own feelings and emotions.
Yeah, this post that I really liked, basically saying you can decide to be confident.
It's this wild thing when we decide to be confident. Like, we don't think a lot about, like, the actual decision to be confident. Like, if I walked in the gym and I thought, okay, how would my most confident self coach practice today, right? Then a few things come to mind of, like, okay, I gotta have high energy, we gotta be able to get drill to drill, gotta have good transition, and then I'm starting to see, okay, that's how my most confident self would act here. So then all I have to do is try to go act that out. So it's the same thing. Okay, how would a confident shooter behave? All right, they'd be coming off screens looking for the ball, right? They'd be disciplined in getting their feet down so that they have time to catch and shoot. They'd call for the ball. They'd shoot and then run back on defense because they know we don't have time to be sad about missing. The game is still playing while we're in our feelings, right? Yeah. And so then as I start to identify, okay, that's how a confident shooter would behave, then I can start to act as if I already was. Right? So if you're in this camp and you're struggling, like, if one of the things you came in with was I'm trying to get confidence in my shot, then it's our job, and then it's your job as you go home to continue to work on the mechanics. But a flip you can make right now is I'm going to decide to act as if I already was until I am. Right? That's not like imposter. That's saying as I'm on my way, I'm going to start behaving as if I already was. And watch yourself get there quicker.
And I think that is, yes, for shooters, but I think basketball overall, like you said in your post, is like you can't hope to just stumble upon being confident. You can work your way there, and you can also just decide to show up and do the actions of a confident person. So I like to use shooting as my analogy of, like, if you want to become better, there are certain things that better looks like and that better does. So in terms of shooting, like, how do you become a better shooter? There's a certain mentality that they have. There's a certain way that they talk. There's a certain way that they walk. There's a lot of like small intricacies about being a great shooter that you don't have yet. So let's find a shooter like Steph. Look at Clay. Look at whoever you want to. Okay, what do they do? Well, he trained a lot. He got a lot of shots. So what did they look like for me? I try and get up a lot of shots. But how does he handle misses? Okay, he does this when he miss. Sabrina does this when she miss. Caitlin does this when she miss. Okay, boom. Oh, they had a bad game. How do they bounce back? So now you start to get in the environment of a shooter or get the environment of a better hooper. So now that rubs off on you. So you start doing the things now that stimulates the growth of you becoming a better person, or a better shooter, a better player. So that's kind of like my little hack I've thought about, is just figuring out the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And then whether you believe it or not, whether it makes sense or not, just start acting on it versus all the stuff around it. Just do that thing as best as you can. So now you can kind of will yourself to being better through the right work and right environment to actually become a better shooter, better player, or whatever.
Yeah, I love that. That's really, really well put. I like it.
You basically said the same thing. So,
I liked how you said it, though. I like that better.
well, you
There's
can
things
take
that
it.
better does that you have to do. I like that.
What helped me with that is doing interviews and podcasting like this. Is just, I want to become a better interviewer. I want to get better with podcasting. So what does that look like? Well, who are the best podcasters? Who are the best interviewers? Okay, who does what I want to do? Because there's a lot of different styles of interviewing. Who does similar to what I want to do? Okay, I study them and see what they do. And I just nitpick from there and try to figure out my own style within there. Like the same way we started basketball. You got your favorite player, you study their game, you learn from it, and you just pick up what they do. Will a big ever do this Euro step that I learned from D Wade? No, but I got it in my bag just in case. I'm trying it. I'm doing something, but you want to get that visual representation of what to do, and you start walking in the steps of what they did to where now I can be more confident off of their confidence. Basically, I'm not confident yet, but I know that if this worked for them, this can work for me too. And that's kind of what I give players of being like, hey, just relax a little bit. No, like you subconsciously, you know what to do. You just don't trust yourself that you came up with the right answer. So, okay, what would a better shooter do? Like, what would that person do? Well, I do X, Y, and Z. Let's try that and see if it works. And that's how you kind of develop that self confidence in them, and then them figuring out, like I was saying earlier, figuring out the puzzle pieces to make this work without me having to spoon feed them everything.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. But also with shooting, this is like the biggest mental hurdle I've come across with them is getting that mindset from a non-shooter to a shooter. Them seeing opportunities to shoot that we all know they should be shooting, but in their mind, I'm still not the shooter yet. This isn't my opportunity to shoot. But we train, put in the reps, we got the shots in. But in game time shows up, they're still not getting that shot. So how do you kind of bridge that gap for their confidence to say, hey, you've trained and put in these thousands of shots over the summer. Game time comes, you need to feel confident enough to shoot. So how do we kind of bridge that gap for them?
Well, I think as like someone in like a development role, gotta with each skill that they get better at, you gotta put it closer and closer to game context for them. So it's like, you know, as I'm getting comfortable shooting, maybe it's a lot of catch and shoot. Always like try to give them always good passes, and then maybe you start to introduce a little bit of movement. You start to have more variable passes, passing from different spots, you know, higher speed. But at some point, now the shots, like there has to be the decision to shoot, right? Like that has to be a part of our training, whether you do it individually and like you're closing out at them, or whether you're in a group setting and you're doing, you know, maybe like a 2-on-1 where it's like it's either catch and shoot or catch and swing it, right? Because in a game, like what we don't always train is I have to decide to shoot, right? Like I have to figure out, am I open? Am I not open? Is the person next to me more open? Like there's all of these like 0.5-second judgment decisions that we have to make, that if we're just like constantly repping in rhythm, no defense shots, then when a game comes and I'm forced with like the chaos of 9 other people moving and me having to figure out, do I have enough time to get this off? Should I drive? Like all these things is like, that's where the next step of the training has to get to, so that in a game that feels more familiar, where I've already judged, like I know defense is standing too far away. I know I'm open enough to get this shot off. So by the time the pass comes, now I am in rhythm. And there's no like second check to be like, gosh, the defense is like, oh, I already did all that. Because that's also what we've been training and repping. And then, you know, if you could put it in a live setting that's like 3-on-3 unrestricted, 4-on-4 unrestricted, and they're still making those decisions and plays, then you could be like more confident in yourself as a trainer development, that when they get to games, they're going to feel that same level of confidence to at least know when they can shoot, how to shoot with that type of closeout, and go from there.
Yeah, I think about that story about how would you boil a frog? And they say if it's already boiling and you throw the frog in, they're gonna jump right back out because it's weird to them. But if you put them in it's lukewarm or cold, and you still decide to turn up the temperature on it, it's not gonna realize that it's boiling over time. And at some point, it's gonna hit boiling and it's done. I think that's what you were saying about skill training, is that just slowly change the environment around them to where, okay, we're doing standstill shooting. Okay, now we're gonna do a little bit of movement. And you just keep making the training a little bit more elaborate to where, 4 or 5 weeks later, it looks very similar to what you would see in the game. And then over time, their confidence, like they said earlier, like you're taking one step outside of your comfort zone. So it's catch and shoot, just chilling. Catch and shoot with a little movement. Okay, now you're gonna do it with the hand in your face. Now you're gonna do at a dribble. Now you're gonna do this. Now you're gonna do that. To where now you're coming down, full game set. You coming on the pin down. You curling off of there. Shot. Oh, that's the movement. Isn't that one of your play calls? Yeah. Oh, look at you being a shooter, and you're figuring it out now. So that's It's crazy that we're on the same page. So I feel like I'm doing something in my life, you know. Clutch shooting. I think there's also a difference in that too when it comes to confidence. How would you kind of train a player's confidence for that as well?
Well, it's like you got to think about, so in game, you're down 2. Someone is like, all right, Beth, you're going to shoot the shot. What happens in your body, right? Do I get stressed? Do I feel pressure? Do I get tight? Or am I loose? Am I settled? Am I grounded? Do I think I can do it? Right. And so how do you find ways to have that similar training effect, not in a game setting? Right. And so that could be, we're doing like a 4-shot series, but if you miss the last shot, it doesn't count. Or, hey, you got to hit this one contested and, you got 2 seconds to score. And if you don't, the entire rep count is back to 0. Or, hey, we just finished this series of stuff. You get 1 free throw. If you make the free throw, we move on. If you miss the free throw, we're doing the same drill again. And, like those things keep mounting. And, that it's not going to be like the same psychological effect that maybe shooting a clutch shot would be. But it is like a little transferable thing of like, okay, I've done stuff with pressure before. I've felt this. I've learned how to calm myself down and just do the task in front of me. And then it can at least help you hopefully have like a clearer head approaching those shots in games. Then I think on like a coaching side is players always do better with things they've seen before, right? So you see a lot in the Final Four or in any of the playoffs where it's like someone is drawing up something for the first time. Is like it always goes better. Lynn Dunn, who's now, I think she's the president, maybe GM of the Fever, but she used to do tons of end game like analysis and speeches. And she said always like there's so much better chance that if you've done this stuff in practice, we've practiced, 14 seconds down 2, need to go full court. I practiced these different things. Then when you get in those moments, you do feel like more familiar with what we're trying to do, the play we're going to call, the shot we're going to take. And then I got to have the confidence and the ability to shoot it.
Yeah, I think the psychological pressure of what you were saying earlier is a big component. And of course, it's not going to be apple to apples transfer, but there is a level of feeling pressure in training and saying, okay, I have to hit this shot. I have to figure out because I can't miss and go back and start back over. I can't keep not having this thing. So that pressure, internal pressure you have does mean a lot. But I've also heard, I forgot where it came from, but they said they try to treat that game winner just like every other shot because it's just another shot. Just because the situation that it's in your eyes makes it bigger doesn't mean it's any different from me. So do you kind of agree with that, or do you still train more for the psychological pressure in that environment?
I think it's both. I think they're both true. And figuring out how to make your body feel like the last shot is the same as a middle shot is still a skill, right? So it still is like learning how to walk yourself down from I'm feeling pressure to being really comfortable in a moment that's like high stakes, right? But getting ourselves to be able to have like a relaxed focus is something you can train so that it does feel like something I've done again and again and again. Because I think even if you say that, there's a little twinge in you that's like, there's a big shot. Like, I got to hit this shot. Even if you don't want to admit it. There's that little thing in you, and is learning how to regulate that part and be like, okay, I've been here. I am confident. I can do this. I'm going to shoot this, and it's going in. Or living with that, they're not always going to go in, and that's part of it also. I think both are true.
Yeah, I forgot who it was. It was a player, and they basically was like, I try to downplay the moment. It's just another shot, just another moment. But if you hit the shot, you're not just going to walk off the court like it was nothing. You're going to celebrate because you know what that means. And so it's always that interesting balance of being even keeled and treating it like it's another moment, like another shot, but still dealing with the emotions and the pressure that comes with it. It's always something that you kind of have to regulate and balance versus a lot of times you used to hear of like, oh, just run from that feeling and run from that emotion. It's just, shove it down. It's not something you want to deal with. But sometimes amps you up to the moment. Like you want to, it's overtime, or this is your rival team, or this player been talking trash to you this whole time. Use it. It's okay to use that emotion versus defer it and push it down. And I think sometimes you get too psychological and just say it's nothing. It's like, no, it is something there. It's okay. Let's see if something's there for us to use.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting to hear how some people talk about certain stuff, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense all the way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how you say it's a blend of both, because it's not just binary. It's more of on a scale of how do you use it. So a little
Yeah,
more
absolutely.
emotion, or a little more mental is more objective in how you view it. So I think that's it. You got
Absolutely.
anything else on shooting, with confidence in shooting and scoring?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No, you gotta find a way to just keep shooting. I think like it's weird. I think the part of like shooters have this kind of like identity. I shoot it, I'm supposed to make shots. And kind of like letting that drip and be like, you know, I can shoot great and I'm not so tied to the ball going in or not. Because I work so hard to get it to go in, but I don't need to be so tethered to the result every time. It just frees us up to, you know, how do I keep getting better at it? Because if I think like my self worth is on the line, well, I'm a shrink every time it goes not my way, right? And so just learning to detach, like this is a thing you do that you're great at, but it's not who you are, and it just frees you up to get better at anything, because it's hard to admit that like I'm bad, but I can be bad at something, or I can need to get better at something that's different in our brain than, well, I'm no good, or I can't do this, or and so just having one layer of detachment from the thing we're trying to achieve frees us up actually to just go chase it down even harder.
I think I want to talk about ball handling next.
Okay.
Do you know of anybody that just identifies himself as like a ball handler, or like being that? Because I think shooters and defenders are the only ones who live with like labels and titles of like, I'm a defender. I don't get crossed up. I don't get scored on. And when it does, that's interesting. They're the exact opposite. I don't think defenders take it personal if somebody scores. I mean, you do as far as like pride, but you don't feel a way about somebody scoring on you, because like you
Mm-hmm.
just know it comes with the job. Versus shooters, they have a bad night. It's like, oh, I'm not a shooter anymore. What's wrong? Defender gets scored 40, and it's like, well, what you gonna do is KD. Oh, what are you gonna
Mm-hmm.
do is Stewie. Come back tomorrow and try again.
Yeah, I
Okay, we're
do
not talking
feel
handles.
no, but I do feel like those are the two. That's exactly what I was thinking about too, of defenders. When you asked that, I was like, oh, but I think if defenders do that. And it's so true. It's like, I was talking to a kid a couple weeks ago though, and she got, she was like, I'm supposed to be a defender, and I got scored on, and da 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 da. And it's like, dude, inherently, like if you're guarding the best players, they're gonna score. Like that's the job. Is like good offense beats good defense most of the time. So it's like the fact that you can make it hard or make it contested or make it out of rhythm is like that's your job just as much as like thinking you're gonna keep someone from scoring. But those are definitely feels like the two that is like there's so much of me tied to being able to do that thing. But I don't know if I've met anyone who's like I'm a ball handler, or even
Yeah.
like a true point guard facilitator. Like people don't really like double down so hard on that as a label. You're right.
I just thought of that in this moment because, yeah, it's really defenders. Like, we take pride in being able to lock up our matchup. Well, I don't know so much nowadays, but when we were younger, I knew we took pride in saying, "This is my matchup. I got them. They're not scoring." Now, of course, you do have the subconscious of team defense and things, but it all starts and ends with you having pride in your matchup and who you're defending. So, if the point guard is a star player, this point guard's gonna have a tough night because they're going against me. Now, to get subbed out, there's still a level of that ego and pride kicking in because you still don't want them to score, but it's more in line of, hey, while you're in there, this is the tendencies. Watch the hezzy cross they like to do, or when they go off the pick and roll, like to reject it versus use it. So now your pride gets transferred to the person's subbing in for your spot to defend them. Versus shooting, it just lives and dies with you. Man, that's so
It
interesting
was
thing about the
interesting.
the identity. That's crazy. I just came with that in this moment. That's crazy.
That's good. I like it a lot.
I mean, let's talk defense now. We can get the handles later. Um, I think most younger defenders struggle with their confidence in that moment because they don't understand, like you said, getting a stop is not always your job. Ideally, that's what you want, but overall, you want to make it as tough and as uncomfortable it is for them to get into their shot. And as you get older, it's like you understand that because you either have been on that receiving end enough times to know that just comes with the territory, or you are on the opposite end where you can give the buckets and it's like, yo, that was great defense, but I'm just better offense. So you
Mm-hmm.
have the perspective now to say, hey, one way or another, it's going to be a long night for me playing defense, but I'm going to make it even tougher for them. So yeah, you score 40, but you shot 30% getting there. And so I don't know if there's another way to really grow and groom that confidence on defense besides just really getting your head bust in and knowing you can come back from it. Like you're just gonna have to get a 40 ball dropped and somebody dunk on you and say, hey, it's tough, but let's respond now. I think that's the only way you can really grow it on the defense end.
Yeah. And then I think like just tactically is probably like positioning, right? Like, can we work on angles? Like some of, because defense is like, it is this thing that is like just so associated with like pride and effort, right?
Yeah.
Versus like when we're talking about shooting, it's like there's so many micro skills in it, right? And so defense, sometimes we just look at so broadly of like, you know, like get through the screen, like, and you like, cool, but how? Like, are there
Yeah.
techniques we can give him? Or is there, and some of it is just like effort. Like if you try really hard, you'll cover up a lot, but it's like, can we also give you like some little techniques or some little hacks or just being in the right spot, taking good angles at stuff so that you're actually helping them, improve defensively and work from there. Like defensive rotations, you're gonna get blown by. Are we peeling switch? Someone has got your back or not. And I think like on ball defense, the more confidence you have in the people behind you, the more pressure you can apply up front, right? Because it's like if you're applying a lot of pressure, you might get blown by. And then what happens, right? I'm sending them to a big. So I know I can get up and still play that tight because I know if I get beat, I have help. And then I know I'm rotating to the next thing. And so I think that's like it's individual confidence that comes along with like team concepts and like knowing the people behind you have your back. Someone is in your gap, the double is coming if you're coming off the screen. And just kind of being on the same page as the people who are playing with you, I feel like builds your confidence as well.
So I got a young guy I'm training and he's a really solid defender, but he's just so small. Just thinking through how people talk about defense, it gets dumbed down to just like you said, it's just about effort. Just try harder, have pride, have integrity. But there's nuances. Like when you really start thinking about it, there's so much subtlety and nuance within it. I think because it gets overshadowed because it begins and ends with effort and the details and stuff and the IQ goes in between. One little nugget I gave him is like there's I call it more of a blitz defender and more of a containment or prevent defender, just using football terms. And he's more of a blitz, meaning the Patrick Beverly, I'm up in you 94 feet. You're gonna get annoyed, agitated, get this little gnat off me mentality. Versus a prevent is more of like a Drew Holiday's a blend. He's a blend of both. Kawhi Leonard is more of a prevent. He's gonna use his length and size to contain you in this spot. And so having the IQ to understand like a Marcus Smart or Drew Holiday, which one do I need to be?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to be underneath them because it's Kevin Durant, so I can't give him the space to dribble like that? Or it's John Morant, he's going downhill, so I need to back off some.
Mm-hmm.
You can't effort your way through that. That's just playing dumb basketball if you keep playing the same way all the time. Knowing how to get off a pick and roll. Do I get skinny and get over it? Do I get under it? Okay, is he's hedging or she's blitzing? Like how we contain it? And the IQ that goes into it gets overlapped all the time because it's just IQ of passing, IQ of shooting, IQ of offense. That the IQ of defense gets lapped over because it's just effort and intensity and you gotta want it. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but I'm getting my head bust in because I don't have the IQ now. So now my confidence is shot because there's no thought behind it. So I think that's an important piece of really there's a middle part that we're missing when it comes to defense, and that's where the confidence gets shot because you don't have any technique or any IQ behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Because I think sometimes kids feel like, well, I don't know what to do. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, and then you got to hear that and be like, oh, that's our job to help you. No. And then if you know, and now you're not doing it, well, now we can like hold you accountable to that. But sometimes we just don't, like, we get upset at athletes for a lack of teaching on our part. And so it's like taking accountability of how you teach, how you drill it, how you emphasize it, and then going from there.
Yeah, I think it's just like a lot of times I think it's on us as trainers and coaches versus just being a player. Because nowadays, like you said, the skill is crazy. You don't have to be overly concerned about a player's skill level. It's that middle ground of the IQ and EQ of what's happening. So let's say that this player doing the same move against you. They're doing a hezzy cross every time. They haven't changed up. They're doing the same move. Do you not notice that? Okay. You don't. All right, fine. Whatever. They're doing the same move. They're going to come down and do this one move. Can you adjust and do this?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's a pick and roll coverage and you just don't understand what to do. Okay, that's my fault. I try to take as much responsibility as I can as a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's initially, even if I feel like they should know, like my first rule is not don't assume anything. I rather over teach as far as them not knowing than to under teach and assume that they know because that still falls back on me. And so with defense, it's like, okay, you don't understand how to handle this. Like you're just playing one way because once again, you've been taught defense is effort and intensity. But now let's add a little IQ in there and mix that into where now you can build your confidence and you start to say, okay, this one defender did, I mean, this one player did this against me. This other player does this against me. You built your confidence knowing that your IQ got a little bit better, just realizing the difference in player A and player B.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot more a lot less on the players and a lot more on us as trainers and coaches to give them the understanding of like, hey, this is kind of how you have to play defense. This is how you adapt and how you involve. Because their confidence in shot because they don't have these skills, but the skills fall in our lap to help them figure out and build it because we just dumb it down to be like, you're not trying hard enough. But like you
Right.
said, they don't know and understand. So that's when
Yeah,
we have to come in and fill that gap.
absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
I think there is one piece that some players do fall bad on is the pride of it. Is like there are times where a player just won't try because they don't want to get embarrassed. Like they might have the technique and everything because you don't want to be that one on the island and you get crossed up at half court, everybody oohs and ahs. Or you want to be that big that comes over, rotates, and tries to do the shot blocking thing because you get dunked on. And I don't think players understand, like I said earlier, that just you're gonna have to have those. If you want to be a great defender, that comes with the territory. But how can we kind of, once again, as coaches and trainers, get them to get that confidence to accept those losses or accept those instances in the game that happen regardless?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like kids is like, what's the like age that you work with most? Are they like college athletes, high school athletes? Like, what do you think percentage wise? I guess.
Oof. Mainly middle school and high school.
Okay.
So yeah, just
Yeah.
mainly that range.
So, like, social media for kids right now is like, I mean, we were in fall league this past fall, and there's a kid, she's got offers from probably almost every Power Four school. And we were playing against her, and like, somehow her highlights end up online, like, every week. And so our kids are like, man, we don't want to guard her. Like, and every team who plays her, like, I have friends who coach against her on other teams, and they're like, our kids just don't want to guard her because they don't want to be on a highlight tape. But there's something about like being so young and like your mistakes being, not just produced, but like the potential to go viral. And now you got strangers in comment section talking about a 14-year-old kid being like, oh,
Yeah.
she got da 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 da. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, so trying to kind of kind of just like build them up as humans, you know, to like not put so much stock in the opinions of people who like they just don't matter. I read a book one time and it was like, you know, on a 1-by-1 card, like write down people whose opinions, like if they speak to you, you will listen to what they say and you will take it as truth and you will like do what they're telling you. At least be open to doing what they're telling you, right? And the author was pretty much like, everyone who's not on this card, you have to just let it go, which is so hard for kids because you want to be like, and you want to be cool, like, and so it's like it's not just fighting against the like, can you guard this person and play defense? It's fighting against what they think will come with it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's like they don't want to be embarrassed, and so it's like, okay, what's the easiest way to not be embarrassed is to not try, or to be able to say, well, like, well, I wasn't even guarding her, that was her rotation, or I wasn't even, I didn't jump, I tripped on my own shoes, and like, but it's like I think building them up as people, and again like helping them to have some grounded confidence in something that's like not so external, or like not needing as much validation from people who aren't with you every day in the trenches with you, actually helping you improve. I think like that's so much harder than just like a simple answer, but it's like helping them get to that point where it's like, yeah, like you want to guard someone's best player, or you want to, like, you know, our team needs you to rotate, so you're going to keep rotating even if they score or don't. It's a hard place to get to for kids right now, just in like the day and generation that they're in. So like when I was 14, you know, you maybe had one line in the local newspaper about your game, you know, and like just nobody cares. And so now we're in this world where like people care, and they care about, you know, literally third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth, like kids playing this sport that's like at that age is supposed to be like recreational and fun. And now there's this intensity slapped onto it that's like, you need to be great right now. And it's like, well, you're 8. Like, how good does anybody expect you to be? It's complicated. The landscape of youth sports is complicated. Like, so I know I went on a tangent, but
Yeah.
it's a process.
Nah, I needed that because I lost a little sight of social media because like when we were younger, we didn't have it the same way. We had it, but it's not what it is now.
Mm-mm.
And I'm always trying to be intentional about not casting my old self, like my worldview, onto them and saying it doesn't matter. Because I remember when I was 14, when I was 8, that was my world. That's all I knew. So just keep it in the middle school or high school, you having this embarrassing thing happen and the whole school knowing about it means everything. Versus now, I don't care. Like I can trip over and fall and it's like, oh, that sucked. And you just kind of move on from it. Versus when you're in middle school and you're there for 3 years and you're in high school, you're there for 4 years, that can stay with you. Or at least in our mind it does. And of course you have occasions where something is almost revolutionary within your 4 years, and that's gonna stay with you all 4 years. But 9 times out of 10, nothing that gargantuan happens. So it's just like, oh, it's another event that happens. I always try to be more empathetic and saying, I remember when I was in your spot. And so if I could, with what I know now, how can I translate that to 10-year-old me, which you I have in front of me now? And it is going back to saying, I understand social media plays a big part. I understand what you're dealing with, but putting it in the frame and context where they can relate to it and make them say, okay, I understand. This embarrassment is painful. It's going to hurt, but I have to overcome it because dealing with the new world that we're in so much social media, it's not going to go away. And so if you back down from getting crossed over in a basketball game, what's going to happen at your job? What's going to happen in this situation, in that environment? So it's really trying to get them, like you said, to reframe it to where they can grow and be confident in life. So now we're talking basketball. It's like, oh, all we're talking about is getting crossed over. We're not even talking about trying to save lives here as a doctor or as a lawyer or whatever. This is just a sport that I play and I really enjoy it. So that's, I think that's the key piece with all this overall, but specifically with defense, is getting them to detach from that embarrassment and that view that they have of what this means to my life, my reputation, and my social media career, which is nothing. But and their mind is everything. So it's kind of playing that middle ground of getting them to bridge the gap to see the bigger picture and what really matters with it.
Right. Yeah. It's hard. Kids, man. But I feel like 5 times a week, we got to tell ourselves as coaches, is like, man, these are kids. Like, why did they respond that way? They're kids. Why do they think this is the biggest thing in the world? They're kids. Like, and they're grown. They're at an age where like they're starting to get some independence, but it's like their brains are still processing everything like as young humans, and just giving them the compassion and like grace of like, yeah, this is normal, like, yeah, I hear you. So absolutely.
All right, let's get back to handles now.
All right.
I think confidence in handles is a little. I think that might be the most cut and dry one, I guess you could say. Like, how do you get more confident handles? You handle basketball against good defense, but I think as we've evolved in the game, we've kind of misconstrued what good ball handling is. So grew up in the N1 mixtape era, and so we understood like there's hoopers handles, and then it's like basketball handles. You could draw that line, and you would, all right, open gym, N1 mixtape style all day. I'm trying to hot sauce somebody, you spinning across the ground, sliding. All the stuff is goofy. You understand? It's cool. Coach say we're practicing now. All right, chill out. Put that over there. Point guard, facilitate, run through the play, whatever. But I think now it's such a big blend of like the Kyrie Irvings and Steph Currys, to where you see a little bit more of a blend of that. And now social media says this is what ball handling is. It's like, no, you still have the Chris Pauls over here that can function, the Tyus Jones that can just be a traditional point guard, the Mike Conleys, and just run the offense is great ball handling too. How do we kind of get that understanding better for them to like, hey, you don't have to be the animal mixtape or make this highlight stuff. You don't have to be the social media game all the time, because that can break your confidence versus getting the ball from point A to point B is amazing ball handling too. So how do we kind of figure that out too?
One, I think the way you just labeled them as 2 different things, like, I think is helpful, like hooper handle and like basketball player handle. I think even having language to differentiate is like cool. But I guess I have 2 thoughts. One is like, we want to continue to put things like, I think that there's bad teaching and coaching that's happening right now, right? Where it's like, it's easier to teach you 3 moves that you stack on top of each other than to teach you basketball, right? Like, okay, we're doing a punch drag with a 3rd grader, and it's like, you don't even know how to do a lunge with one leg, and we're telling you to like lunge, hit the ball at the same time. And like, when would you ever do that? Like, where is the defense? When would this come out of you? Am I guarding you, or are we just having you do something out of cone so that we can say, oh man, I got 3rd graders doing under drags and da 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 da. And then they play 3-on-3 and they're wide open for a shot, and they take 6 dribbles because they want to do the thing. And so I think that it's easier to teach some of these like skills detached from game application.
Mm-hmm.
And, as like this training industry grows, you have people whose livelihoods and income is dependent on having kids in the gym. And so they got to come up with different things to do every day. And it's going to be easier for them to be like, okay, we're working on da 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 da, than to really teach them the game. And then I think also is like, you want to give them all the skill in the world. That's also our job. Teaching them, like, I think that I heard Michael Lancaster talking about like, almost like thinking about these skills as like karate, and how in karate or in martial arts, it's like, basically in martial arts, we are teaching you how to effectively hurt someone, right? Like, I can punch through a wall. I can do all these things that would cause a lot of damage to another person, but we're also teaching you the discipline of restraint so that you're only using what's needed as it's needed in that moment, right? And I think in ball handling or in any type of skill, it's like we want you to have all the skills in the world, right? Like freedom of movement is the name of the game. Like if I feel comfortable handling the ball, moving laterally, backwards, I can cuff it and I can do all these different things. But that creates like freedom within my body. But then when we play, can we make that same freedom like as efficient as possible, knowing that like if I can go between the legs by you 6 times in a row, I don't need to do something else until you make me change, right? And so kind of that ebb and flow of like, we're giving you this and we're giving you this and we're giving you this, and then we're constantly having you play and just say like, take what you need and use it when you need it. And then anytime you just open, shoot the ball. Like, anytime you have a easy assist, make the pass, and kind of simplifying it for them of like, the goal is still, can we put this ball in the hoop easy as possible? So I think that's the ebb and flow.
I remember having a situation and I fell victim of that, of teaching them a lot of moves, trying to get the bag and stuff. But I built it in a way that I felt comfortable doing it. But remember, like similar situation that we're talking about, put them in a live situation, and then they're doing all that stuff, and I'm like, I messed up. That's my fault. Go get a bucket. Use move when necessary. And they were like, oh, like yeah, you had a straight line drive. What you crossing back over for? The defense is sitting right here on your hip. Why would you cross back over into them and make your job twice as hard or get a turnover? If you have a straight line drive, go. If you get cut off, now do I go between cross, wrap, spin, whatever? Now the moves come in play. Option A is always either catch and shoot or just drive. Can you get a bucket in this opportunity? Make it as simple as possible. The fanciness comes in between there. Now you get cut off, boom. A great defender comes cut you off again, boom. You got past them, another defender comes, boom. But overall, if I don't have to do any of that, you still get 2 points either way. So you don't get, it's not like NBA Live or Street where you get bonus points and for the flashiness of it. Like, no, at the end of the game, it's going to say 2 points on this possession right here. Whether you cross somebody up or you had a fast break layup, it's 2 points is 2 points. So it's just getting them to like get out of their feelings and say, hey, you don't have to have a highlight mixtape every single time. You can get a scholarship with the most basic, boring package possible. You still score 30. So that's kind of how I taught in that moment of like, go get a bucket, use move when necessary.
Yeah, I like that.
You can take that, but like I really like your content because I can tell you had some level of college coaching in you because you really teach the game, but you put context of the skill with it too. So like, okay, the defense going to X out and do this and do that. Offense, how to respond and do that. Okay, boom, boom, boom. You're teaching it and you're training it. So you put the skill of what we're doing blended with the context, blended with basketball IQ to where now you're in a game and it's like, oh, we did this 30 times during practice. It's nothing now. So I can tell you had a good blend of both sides. So when you told me you college coach, I'm like, oh, that light bulb went off for me. I'm like, okay, that makes perfect sense on why she teaches this way. So I love what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I think the most insecure a player gets on ball handling is when they get pressured. So you have a really good defender and they're pressuring you. That's when the intensity turns up to 10 and the insecurity turns up to a 10, the confidence starts to drop. How do we kind of build around that and get a player's confidence up when it comes to that?
What do you think? Because that's hard. I don't know. Like I have thoughts, but that is definitely still a work in progress. So if you have anything, I would love to learn from you.
Like you said, it's tough. It's been a blend of first getting them to understand that turnovers are okay right here. Like you're gonna mess up, you're going to dribble off your foot. I don't care. And it's just like you said before, creating that environment where failure is acceptable. And then from there, it's like, okay, part of it is just getting more physical. That's a big part of ball handling. Knowing how to, using your karate reference, ebb and flow with the pressure. So, somebody's blitzing you, covering you like that. If you're coming down court, you might do, the old school point guard. We kind of back them down, weave them a little bit. And if you're in half court already, you might catch it and jab them, use it to your advantage and just see what they're doing, kind of play games a little bit. But it's really just getting them to kind of understand, like, this isn't pressure that's going to break you. This is something that you can still work around. And then from there, putting them in situations to where they almost like the boiling of frog reference that I gave earlier. Of like, okay, this is pressure. Now let's turn it up some more to get you against a bigger defender and more physical. Okay, now we're gonna do this for double teams down the court. So I might have a drill where I did a drill where I had a box within the court and like, hey, we're gonna just for 30 seconds, your torture chamber right here. Most intense pressure you can deal with for 30 seconds. I don't care what you do, but the only thing you can't do is keep turning your back to me. We're not allowing that right now because that's the easy cop out. So you're gonna have to man up, woman up, and just deal with this pressure right here. So if
Mm-hmm.
you can deal with this for 30 seconds over here in training, you can deal with 9 seconds to get it across half court, or you can deal with this getting off a pick and roll now. So now it's just getting them overly exposed to it to where when game time comes, it's dumbed down for them. And then you might see a double team for a while to where you have to get, from baseline to half court, getting double teamed the whole way. So if you get a turnover, it's fine. Get the ball up, we're gonna start back right here and keep going. So it's just situations like that to where the intensity is a level 10 of defense you're seeing because I don't care how great of a defender you are, you're not gonna be better than me being double teamed right here by two, solid defenders. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just situations like that to where they have to basically embrace the blitz and embrace all the pressure. So now game time comes, it's like, I can handle this now. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
how I dealt with it.
Yeah, I like that. I think in like in addition to all those things is like how do we train a player's eyes?
Yeah.
How do we actually see the right passes? I'm getting pressured and my head goes down and I'm dribbling really fast and I can't see anyone who's open. And then, you're on the sideline and you're like, pass right there. And they're
Mhm.
like, nobody's open. And it's like, because we can't see them, right? So it's like
Yeah.
training a kid's ability to see and like, to really be scanning the court for looking at stuff, I think is huge. And then also like little skills of like, can I pull the ball to my pocket? Like, can I get it out of space where someone is poking at? I think those are two things that in combination with everything that you just listed helps us handle pressure better. Like, what's this little skill where ball's out of traffic? You can't get to it the way you're reaching. And if you overreach, I can go by. And just like, okay, you can relieve pressure by I'm just moving the ball. Like I'm seeing someone who's open and I'm making the right pass. And then maybe the third is like, can we help their like pattern recognition so that,
Yeah.
okay, they're in a 1-2-2 press, 1-2. Yeah. So they always trap the first pass. So it was like, cool.
Mhm.
Like, how do they usually rotate? Where are we looking to get the ball to? Like, can you get up the sideline right away? If not, like, do we have cutters coming into the middle and like, or are they covering the middle? They covering the reversal pass because there's not enough of them to cover both. And so
Mhm.
kind of like it's same with like a blitz. Like, okay, when they blitz, like, are they taking away like the swing pass where it's like they might get hands on the short roll, but can you hit like the swing across and then they can hit the roll? And kind of like the more that we can help them think the game, the more when these different coverages come is like I know how to deal with this, right? If you blitz and you get over this screen too fast, like I can reject it. Now you're out of position. Or kind of just helping them work all the way through. Like, what are we trying to do? What are they trying to do? And what can we do based on like what they're attempting to do by just recognizing patterns, positioning, and kind of like what they're giving up by trying to do this super aggressive thing.
Man, okay, I gotta ask you this question. Like, this is me, like, as a trainer, genuinely asking you this. How do you get your players to think the game more? Because I've been struggling with, especially like the middle schoolers and early high schoolers. They don't think the game enough to where this, I don't know, they just don't process it the same way. So, like, I ask them questions like something as simple as, "What are we working on today?" And they be like, "I don't know, you tell me." I'm like, you just had a game. Like, you don't have anything from after the game that you want to build on and work on. Or you just had practice this, afternoon. You coming with me, like
Mm-hmm.
there's something that that, okay, I struggle with this in practice. How do I get better at this thing? Or you watch the game, you want to learn about this. So how did you kind of get your players to kind of think the game more?
So do you do mostly individuals or groups, would you say?
Individuals.
Yeah. So I think like if you could start, well, one, if you're doing individuals and you're just going to stay with individuals, then like starting to show them film of like, even just like naming things. Like you watch like 3 NBA possessions and you just start talking about like different things that are happening. It's going to start to like up their pattern recognition. But I think like the second you start doing groups, now you get 3 or 4, 5, 6 kids, and now you can just play those situations, right? So it's like, okay, like we're gonna work on they're switching and we have like a strong side corner, and you know these are the 3 things we're looking for, or like, so then you put them in that situation and then you just teach right from there. So instead of using maybe that hour or hour and a half, whatever you do with the kids to do like skill removed from context, you just immediately go to context, game context, and then you can break down any skill that they're struggling with as you start to introduce the concept. So, if you're trying to work on pick and roll and they keep like missing this pocket pass, right? It's like sometimes it's like eyes, right? Like, can I get something in my hands and my feet where I can slow down, I can see the play, and then I can make a decision. So then you could go straight from like this 3-on-3 breakdown to like everyone is repping this out 5 times, and then we're going back and we're seeing if we get any better at our ability to look, like hang the ball and then make decision in the pick and roll. And incorporating film into like, what are we looking at when you come off a ball screen? Like, how would you even know this is open or not? And some of it is like we want it to be feel, but like as trainers, it's like you are the place where they develop feel. So you are the place where it starts as like, this is what we're trying to do. And then, in 3 months, 6 months, sometimes even, it just takes time for them to be like, oh, I'm so comfortable with this. Now it does seem like feel. But it didn't start being like, this makes complete sense to me and I just get it,
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, because I've tried to incorporate different things. And so sometimes it'll be something that, like you said, doing a little bit of film session. And
Mm-hmm.
it's more for context of what we're working on and why. So it might be like a type of finish. We're working on just being more physical with your finishing. So I show examples of what that is and what it looks like. So they can kind of take from it what they want to. And I'll teach the principles behind what is a physical finish is and what it looks like. Now, how they figure out the things in between there, it's kind of on them. But I know we want to create contact first, or want to create contact in the air and then do this, and the ball's going to be here, footwork's going to be like that. Now, how they decide to do it in every situation is on them. But getting that film to translate to them asking more questions sometimes has been a little bit of a struggle because they just, their brain doesn't see certain things yet to even think of asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's been like, all right, how can we help you not want to have a higher IQ, but even get the train to think like most times it's checker. So it's step 1 and step 2, step 2, step 3. How can we get you like even more advanced checkers to step 1 to 3? How can we get there? And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of been a struggle sometimes too, of like, yo, just stop being so simple with the game. It's more to it, and just get them to evolve a little bit more there. That's been a little bit of a struggle, but some players get it and it's a lot better. And some players are a little bit more challenging to advance through
Mm-hmm.
with that.
Yeah, I think it's like we have to be really good at like painting the right picture for them and be able to. I had great friend of mine, Jawan Brown. He coaches for the Texas Legends right now, but we've trained together or worked together at Tyler Ralph's gym in Dallas, Texas. And Jawan always used to tell me, he's like, you have to be able to answer like when you're prepping a workout, is like you have to be able to answer 5 levels of why. Because the better the kid comes in, like, and not kids, now we're talking about like young men, right? Like they're playing in college, they're playing in the G League, they're playing, overseas, and you give them any type of bullshit, excuse my language, and they know and they're done with the session and they're never coming back to you, right? But if you can explain like what you see, where defense is, like they're like, okay, I get exactly what you're talking about. And so with kids, it's like you don't have to be as good of a teacher to help them, but you should take the same pride in your preparation as you were for that. So if I'm trying to teach like you said, like that video of the X out, right? It's like, when would that happen? If they've never seen that before, how can I introduce that concept? Like sometimes even asking like, do you see what I'm talking about? Or should we just show an example? And half the time they'll be like, we have no idea what you're talking about. You need to show us an example. Right. And so just like you said earlier, not assuming that they know or have been taught anything. Right. So it's like, can you paint that picture for them? So it's like, here's where help is. And this is why we think this finish would work. And, and here's all these other things you could do, and kind of breaking it down from there. But the better you can explain why you're teaching what you're teaching, the better that they're going to be like, okay, this makes sense. And sometimes they don't have to try it. Like I tell people that all the time, like, you don't have to do this. I'm not going to come to your game on Saturday and expect you to use exactly what we're teaching. But if we can just, like, I was working with a kid just yesterday who was like, all we were doing was like we were at the elbow and it was just like a between cross. And then you were kind of like floating off your inside step. And then it was like floater, swing step, and pass. Something like those were our three things. And she was like, Beth, I'm like much more simple in the game. And I just told her, I was like, okay, but what are three transferable skills that if you do this between cross or not could be helpful? And she was like, oh, like my eyes scanning the help side, me being able to take like this inside step to go through a defender, and then having like this second of pace in my feet that slows me down and helps me make decisions. And it's like, great. Like, you don't have to do all these pieces, but can you find the transferable skills that whatever you do, you can start to use this, helps them just like have more confidence in us as teachers of like, okay, like she knows what she's talking about. And whoa, those were three things that I didn't even know this drill was about, that is completely applicable to what I'm doing. And I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah, I think kind of piggyback what you were saying about trainers have to have the 5 levels of depth behind their why. And I think with the younger kids, it's not even going that deep. It's figuring out which lane can get them there. So you might have to have 5 different analogies or 5 different examples, just because my go-to analogy works 8 out of 10 times. So for those 2 times it don't work, do I have a backup plan? Now, do I have a backup for that backup plan? Do I have a backup for the backup for the backup? And sometimes it's just like I try to keep like a core group of them that I always go reference and go to. But a lot of times in a situation, I might pair it to where she plays softball, so I think of some softball analogy to make it click for her. Or he really likes cars, so like, okay, cool. When you're driving and doing this and that and the third, this is what happens for you. So I always try to pair things to where I'm prepared enough to where I can go 1 or 2 examples deep, but then I have to make sure that I'm prepared for none of that to work and figure out something else to connect. So I don't want to keep repeating myself and saying, you have to get lower when you're dribbling. Well, you said it 15 times where it hasn't worked. What's plan B to get them get lower when they're dribbling? So then it's being more knowledgeable as a trainer, as a coach, to say, okay, we have to get to this finish line. We have to drive from, Cali to Florida. What's the best way for this specific individual, this athlete, to get there? So that's where the depth of being a good trainer comes in, because you can't just sit here and have your one example, your one story, your one analogy, and think it's going to transfer to all 15 kids
Right.
every single year.
For
And
sure.
that's something I've been working on being more intentional about, is like not being too stubborn with what I say and what I do, because it might not work this time. It might have worked last week with the same exact player, but this week they struggle with the exact same thing. How you lost what happened last week this week, I don't know. But I'm gonna figure out how to get you back to where we were before, in spite of this loss that we had. So something I've learned too is like having more depth, not just for the higher level of, depth, but more width sometimes with the younger players.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's a key piece for our confidence as trainers, having that level of preparation and preparedness. So,
Yeah, I'm with
but
that.
yeah, I think that's all I got for ball handling. But I do want to ask you this. You can answer this as player, trainer, or coach, or whatever. What has been the best advice that you've gotten about confidence? Something that somebody told you this and it's like, this helped me with my confidence. The best thing you've heard or read or whatever.
Well, I think probably just that, like, when I heard it phrased as like, okay, it's kind of separated into these parts and like these are some different things, and really being like, the truest confidence is like, I believe I can figure it out, which means I don't have to have the answers today, but I have the resources, the ability to get what I need to do it. I think has helped me, because even, training and like running your own business and or coaching and you have a new team and you've never dealt with something you're dealing with before, if you don't have something where it's like, I think I can figure it out in like the future tense, it just is like stifling where you're like, well, I don't know how to open a gym. I don't know how to, you know, get kids from other areas to come here. And if I just hang on all the things I don't know today, then you'll never try to do the things you need to do to have those things at some point. And so I think that's really the best thing I ever heard about confidence is just, can I figure it out? Right. And just being like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to figure it out. It just helps you just keep approaching each day and like keep trying again.
One thing I love with your language, like you're very cognizant of like you're not there yet or you're not there today. Has that always been like something that you've had, or is that something you've learned throughout the process?
I mean, I read a lot. And I think like language is one thing that I'm like, man, the words you say, like they paint a picture for someone else. Right. So it's like even adding that word yet, is like, that means I could get there, you know?
Yeah.
So I try to be aware of like what I say and what it could mean to another person or it means to myself. And just trying to have some intentionality behind that.
Yeah, I've been noticing that throughout this time. You'll say, not a great ball handler. Well, yet, or today they're not a great shooter, but it gives them that opportunity to still be optimistic and to still have the growth mindset about it. Like, okay, maybe I can't shoot today, but tomorrow I can get better the next day. And that just frames their mind in a different space. So I noticed that. And I appreciate that because, a lot of trainers and coaches will have good intention behind it, but then leaving that one key word off means everything for them. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm also the same thing, the same way of being mindful of how I frame it and how I say it can make a hard left and things go terrible for them. Or, okay, we're still on course and things can go well. So, and I appreciate you doing that because a lot of kids get destroyed or you know just broke down by the slight of that word not being there. So
Yeah.
that's
I
amazing.
appreciate that a lot. Thank you for saying that.
But yeah. So now finishing off with this, would you would you still say the same thing that you've learned for kids? Like if you had to give one message to a kid about their confidence, how they can develop and how they grow, what's the advice you would give them?
I would just tell him like if you're confident about if you base your confidence in things that change, your confidence will always be a roller coaster. Right. So and if I base my confidence on things I can't control, then I will always be on a roller coaster. And so if I can find something that grounds me and something that I can that I can take ownership of, well then like I can have confidence that still dip, but is not on as big of a roller coaster as, if it's, what my parents think about me or what my coach thinks about me or what these people think about me or if the ball goes in, right? There's all of these things that is like, if this is what you're going to hang your hat on, then it will go up and down. And if you want to take a step off the roller coaster of other people's emotions, then we are going to have to dig and find some things that you can start to take stock in for where I'm getting confidence from and where I'm getting, it's not the exact same thing, but like where I'm drawing my self-worth from, right? And if those things can be in things that are grounded, then we'll be steadier day to day in our approach to things and when things go well or go bad. So I think that's the biggest first thing for kids is like, where are you drawing it from? And is that working for you well or not?
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I think that kind of go back what we were saying earlier is just kind of detaching yourself from it and having that layer in between you and the end result of what you get. So that's hard to do, man. Like,
For sure.
have you had any success with either yourself doing that or you're training your players to do that to kind of detach from that process and just living through it?
I think I've personally seen a lot of growth just in myself of, people be like, man, you love basketball. And I'm like, ball is life. And I'm like, well, this is my job. And it's a craft that I take seriously. But like, this is not all I am, or like, so I will be quick to correct someone on like, no, 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 no. This is not all that I am. Like, you can't,
Yeah.
don't put that on me. And so I think like that level of detachment for me can even like, it helps me look more objectively at like the work I'm doing versus like the human that I am. And with kids, I think it's like, it's just such a process to get there. Cause I remember even in college, like, you know, which was like the height of my athletic career, being like, coach doesn't have confidence in me and why aren't I da 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 da. And so I think, starting to introduce those things to kids at a younger age helps, but it's like just something you have to grow into yourself. And some of like the way your parents raise you is going to affect like how you see the world. And so I think there's definite progress with kids, but getting to the point where they're like, because like you said earlier, like basketball is the biggest thing in their world right now for most of them, right? This game is the biggest game of the year, right? And so as adults, you have perspective that like this is a sport, it's fun, it's great, but it's a sport. And as kids, it's like this is the biggest thing in their world. So it's harder for them to detach than someone with a lot more perspective would have.
And I saw this comedian named Trevor Noah. He had a
Mm-hmm.
stand-up piece, and one of his things he mentioned was that Americans are so attached to like their identity is so wrapped into their work. And so somebody will ask, hey, so basically like tell me about yourself. Then be like, I'm a teacher, oh, I'm a this. And they identify themselves with their job title. But it's like
Immediately, yeah.
overseas, it's like, well, I'm a husband and I have kids. And it's like all these things about their life as a human being. But in America, the first thing we think about is I'm this title or oh, I have this job description. I'm a billionaire of this company. I'm the CEO of this firm, or I'm a basketball trainer. That's the first thing we say when people ask us about that. And I've been trying to think of my answer for that more often. I know people are going to look at you and be like, well, yeah, but like, well, what do you do? I do a lot of things. I have a podcast. I train kids in basketball. I like to do this and I do that. I think we get so caught up as Americanized with our identity of who we are is what we do. But there's so much more than that. Like you don't teach 24/7. You're not a teacher all the time. You
Mm-hmm.
don't clock in, go to your school, teach, and then after that you go to another school and teach, and then you go to sleep and wake up. Like you go out and you like to do crochet. You like to play pickleball. You like to do whatever. There's so much more to us than that. But in our society, that's what we glorify. Like my best friend, man, she's my Beth, that's my girl, man. She a trainer and she does this and does that. That's how we identify with people. And I think for kids, when you don't have more titles and more identities to you, so the one that you do have, when that goes down, we go down. Since we're older, it's like, man, I do 5 different things. I just show this one because of social media and business and so on and so forth. But in actuality, I like anime, I like playing, cards, I like doing video games, I like fashion, whatever else, but you only
Mm-hmm.
see 1 or 2 things because of business or because of social media, and so I think that I'm trying to still figure out my lane of, like, un-Americanizing who I am or, like, my title, but that's a big thing that I wish we could get better at in our culture, not just in basketball, but life overall as, in America.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we'd be happier if we could detach a little bit from who I am is what I do. Absolutely.
Yeah, once you figure that out, you let me know and we can come back on and talk about it and
Okay.
help people out.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
Got anything else?
No, this has been great. We could talk all day probably.
I'm really trying to do better about not talking so long on the podcast. I want to make it a little bit shorter, but I'm not going to cut it off because you're still doing amazing and we vibing. We here. So but I'm trying not to make it be an all day thing. I don't think people want to hear us talk all day. I don't think so.
No. We need a part 2. We might need a part 2, but we don't need to talk all day.
We'll figure it out. We don't know when it's going to happen, but we're going to come back.
For sure.
But I appreciate you, man. This has been fun. It's been very insightful to see your perspective on confidence and how you see about this. Anything else you want to say with the people? Anything else you want to promote?
No. Follow me on Instagram. I'll get better at posting stuff once we get out of basketball season. And yeah, just that's all I got. Mounier _4.
Yeah, I have everything below. But I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for everybody that's watching and listening. Make sure you watch the episode, but see you on the next time. Beth just gave us the blueprint on how we can build confidence in our skills, but then get the skills and the confidence in those skills to transfer to the game. So now we can be more well-rounded and more confident hoopers. But even more importantly, being confident hoopers is being more confident human beings. But while building these skills are very important and a very important piece of our blueprint, these are some things and key areas that we're missing as a part of this blueprint. And when I hear the conversation of confidence, I see people talking about it, there are certain things that I see that are missing or being glanced over, and not even talked about at all when talking about building someone's confidence. And so on this next episode, I'm going to get into some hidden truths about confidence that I just saw that are missing and aren't really talked about when we're trying to build someone's confidence up and think about the blueprint and the recipe of building confidence. And so with this episode, you just finished getting a brick of building up this confidence, but you don't have the full blueprint yet. So stay tuned for this next episode. Make sure you subscribe and follow along, and stay tuned to get this next piece of the blueprint. And let's keep building together. Appreciate you. Keep building.